Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da.
What's going on, guys? Cooper here. We have another video filled with wrenching on Chip. Chip is my clapped out SN95 Mustang. In typical fashion for this channel, it is a base model V6 car. The goal with this build is a budget drag and drive car. Now, the word budget kind of sucks when describing cars because no one has the same idea of budget when it comes to cars. I call it Chip for the simple reason that when you use Disney Channel type names for cars, the audience really connects with them. So the trick is to find one minuscule quality your car has and run with it. The goal for this car is simple: drag and drive. A quickly growing form of racing where you take your car and you load all your junk in it, maybe tow a trailer, and you drive from track to track pretending to not be miserable, and at the end you pat yourself on the back because you accomplished an incredible feat of a road trip. The goal for Chip is simple: don't break the bank, don't have to constantly fix stuff at every track, and not be completely miserable on the drives. But you know how plans go. I have more rear end stuff to do. Finally, not really finally, I only ordered this a couple days ago, like a week ago or so. I got all of my, bulletproofing, I'm gonna call it, parts in to make this 8.8 basically as strong as an 8.8 can be in a lot of ways. This is all like a strange kit, not sponsored, bought this full price, but I gotta say it is really reasonable for everything you get. It's like $700 and you get so much to make this thing as strong as it needs to be. So let's start off with kind of how you have to do it. So you have to cut off the end bearings right here, and then you put these guys on. They bolt into the same spot. You cut it right there, and then it bolts up to the flange, and then it has its own bearing in there. The C-clip eliminator kit too, so you know all that stuff is gone, all the stuff that normally breaks. But look at that, it's all billet, all really nice hardware. This is the caliper bracket, and then it even has a wheel speed sensor provision, so that's really cool. I don't have the ring for the rear wheel speed sensor, but it's nice to have the provision in case I ever want to add it. It's got this guy, I'll show you. So this is the old center section that came out, and then this is the new center section. So you can see the old one had all this, locking stuff in there and whatnot, like the limited slip and everything like that. This one, no slip, directly connects the two. Super badass, and that is way less likely to break than something like that. So just have to transfer over this gear onto here, and then we can put it all together. Let's show you guys the axles next. So here are the axles. Just look at that. That is insane. That is a freaking stout axle. Oh my, that is wild. These things are freaking monstrous. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So, really beefy. These basically should be unbreakable in a lot of ways. I really don't like to use that word unbreakable because basically, anything can break, but I run pretty much the same axles in the Camaro and they've been good so far. We've been, 11760, which isn't insane, but at 3,000 pounds, 3,200 pounds, it is pretty stout. I'll be fully honest, I'm out of my league on this. This is a pretty complicated deal, but you'll never learn unless you learn, right? I had to cut this bearing housing off, and I kind of ground it down, cleaned it up, just putting this on, and I kind of came to a point where I was like, what side do the brakes go on? Because if I put this on that side, the brakes are on the back side of the housing. If I put it on this side, they're on the front. After some looking up and looking at what other people have done, it looks like the jury is out. I don't know what people mostly do, but the Camaro has them on the front. The stock Mustang put them on the back. kind of a roll of the dice. I don't know. I'm gonna put them on the front. This will definitely not be the last video working on this diff. I will definitely have many more, but you know, I have to kind of jump around a little bit because the way that I order parts is like, I'll start working on something, realize the parts I need, order them, start working on something else, realize the parts I need for that, order those, and then kind of jump around as the parts come in, doing all of it kind of at once instead of focusing on one spot until it's done, or one piece until it's done. Like, if I just focus on the rear end until it is done, then I'm not gonna have the pieces in time for the rest of the stuff. If you guys kind of understand what I'm saying. It's definitely not the best way to do it because you kind of lose track of what you're doing in a lot of ways, but it's kind of part of what you have to do. Like, if I just worked on the front end, I would, you know, be sitting here waiting for parts for this. Instead, now I can wait for parts for everything. I need to look at those. Just cleaning up my OEM valve covers. These are the axles, as I already showed you guys. And the axle bearings right here need to go onto there like that. Very far up, like all the way up the collar. But these are press fit. And if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know I don't own a press. But that's where you're wrong. Kind of. I do own a press now. Went out yesterday and I got myself this big dog 20-ton press. So finally have a press in the shop. I've needed one for a while, and this opens up the door to get a lot of other items like the finger brake kit, so you can bend up metal and that kind of stuff. I know many of you guys watch Taylor Ray, you know that with a press you can do a lot of other cool things. I definitely want to add the finger brake kit to it, so press was needed. Every shop kind of needs a press. I'm going to need it a couple more times before this project is done. But I can tell you it works because I already did the first one. Now I'm definitely only concerned that it's a little crooked. It's hard to fully know, I guess, but if it's seated all the way, it shouldn't be crooked, but it's pressed on. Guys, I'll be honest, this didn't have to be done here. Strange, you guys could have done this before you sent it out. This didn't have to be press fit by consumer. This could have been press fit by manufacturer. So, I don't know. Just my opinion. So, one is done, and I already know that everything should work. Looks good, like that. Definitely a little sketchy. Used a little bit of white lithium grease to get it lubed up, and now I'm gonna get to the second one, so wish me luck. It's scary. It's also pretty dark on this side of the shop. I don't realize how much that one light just puts out. I need like another light over here. And also update on this guy. Everybody was so concerned when I put it up that I needed a strap. It's now been up for a couple months now and has not budged. Even the slightest, it hasn't budged. So I think it's good. You guys know me. I got off track pretty quickly. The shifter came in last night and I wanted to play around with the shifter because it's kind of one of the important things, I guess you'd want to say, where it is and ergonomics and whatnot. I don't have seats, obviously, or know exactly where I'm going to be seated just yet, but I could probably put the shifter in. Now, you can see the Camaro one is kind of in this massive hole right here. Just gigantic. And it's it looks terrible, but this is more of just a stripped out race car. This car, we're going for more of a full interior feel. So I want to try to make it a little nicer. Try. I got a B&M shifter, B&M shifter. This is the, I don't know which one they call this. It's like the Outlaw something or other. I need to figure out how to make this kind of nicely in here. Now, if you know this car or Mustangs, you know that the shifter location is usually all the way up there. like way up in the front. You can see right there. It's usually like up here, but these shifters need a ton of throw ability. Like if I put it like that right there, it would be a little bit farther away from me, and you know, when it's all the way forward, which I probably won't be able to do with one hand, when it's all the way forward, it'll basically be hitting the dashboard. Yeah, so not ideal. And it's really far, because if you're strapped in, you know, that's just far away from you. So my thought process, and what a lot of people have told me and said to me, is cut this stuff out, which, I mean, who needs an ashtray and a cigarette lighter? I mean, that just seems silly. They cut it out and put it here. So that's kind of my thought, is to put it here, maybe make a little plate for it, and kind of put it up like this high would be nice, because then it's always going to be, you know, easy to reach, accessible. Maybe I'll tuck it down a little farther, but like I said, with the way that it throws, it's hard to kind of tuck it down very far. Moving it back also helps loop the shifter cable, so all that kind of stuff comes into play. But first thing to really kind of start mocking it up will be to cut this out. I'm out here working with a lantern like I'm a dang pilgrim. Time to set up this other axle to get pressed on there. Hopefully this one goes smoothly. This stuff stresses me out. You got one chance to make it work, and it's kind of an expensive deal to kind of roll the dice on. A lot of people would say, hey, get a professional. Listen, those professionals started somewhere, and this is my starting somewhere. Funny story about this, I'll get to that later, but this is actually a piece of the Camaro door bar that I had to cut up to make a tool for the press. All right. See, it's just sliding on in there. At some point the bottom ring will probably fall out. I have to press the bottom ring in by itself. Finally found a use for this little square I made when I was learning how to weld. Well, still I'm learning how to weld. Dented it. That's how much pressure it takes to do that. So these are kind of miscellaneous tools now for the press, but now I have to pull that off, reset it, lower this down so that I can press this ring in. And this ring, I'll show you guys. Now I have to press in this ring. It just goes on the bottom side. This ring has to go on the bottom side there and then be pressed on along with it. And obviously it's not exactly easy. My first thought was get a tube that can slide over this and press it on there. And then my second thought was, I don't know if I want to run out and try to find a tube that's big enough to fit over this like 2-inch thick axle. I'm sure I could have found one, but I didn't have one. Didn't want to go buy one. Didn't want to go running around to find one, so figured I would just rig something up. And that's when I came up with this idea. Last night I woke up in a hot sweat and I said, I got it. That is where this guy comes in. So I cut this tube, you know, way shorter, and then cut it in half, and then I put it like this and zip tied it onto the other one, and then rested this onto those plates, those black plates right there, and was able to press it in like that, the same way. Weird that this is how it has to be done. I'm sure somebody might have a better idea of how to do this. Somebody might have done it differently, but with my limited tools, this is kind of what I thought of. And it's not like I'm going to be doing this a lot where going to find that piece of metal would have been worth it. So, well, this is how I set it up. So these little pieces of tube and a little bit of grease, and then 2 zip ties, just so I don't have to worry about them kind of blasting off and hitting me in the face. Okay, well, I was able to use this spindle nut and kind of make it work without having to reset it. And it looks like it's seated all the way. I'm sure people are gonna be like, why didn't you just heat it first? But I don't like just throwing heat at things if I don't have to. And I really didn't have to on this, clearly, but let's see. Still, and it still spins. Doesn't spin like extremely freely. I don't know. Let me put down the camera and see. Yeah, it looks like it spins pretty freely enough. So both axles now are done. Press won't be used for a little bit now, but it's good to have a press. It's kind of one of those pieces of shop equipment you always need. A couple tools now that stay with this. These handy just in case ever need these. So I need like a little box now to put under there. Now just need to wait for the center carrier bearings, and then we could press those on, put the carrier bearing, put the center section in, make sure everything lines up, and then we can start really putting together the diff. It's not welded yet. I am kind of still, I don't know, haven't fully committed to it yet. There's still a lot of other stuff that needs to be done, so I'm not like in a huge time crunch on that just yet. There's some people that I know that are better than me at this kind of thing that I may ask for some assistance, but you guys know me. I like to try to just muscle through things and figure it out, because I think if you force yourself to learn these kind of things, you'll be better off in the long run. Show you guys the shifter here. This is the mock-up of what it's gonna look like. That's probably where it's gonna sit. That is first gear right there, and then, you know, all the way down to, pretty hard to do this with one hand, but all the way down to park right there. So should be perfect, and it tucks it all away, hides everything, and it should, once it's in like gear like that, you should have no problem pulling the center console out still, so that's always good. I like this style shifter so much because it's such a tall shifter, you know, stalk, whatever you call it, shift knob. I mean, it's not really a shift knob, but whatever you call it, it's so tall and it's so easy to just, like, you know, hit into the next gear when you're going down track. Like, it's not something you want to have to think about. It's something you just want to, like, click into the next gear. So really nice having this really tall one like this. And it doesn't interfere with cup holders or anything. And then we gain all this space here for something. I don't know what I'm gonna put there yet, but something. That'll do it, guys. This is like a 2-day video. These videos are really tough because, you know, I set out to do something and sometimes it does not always work out. But as I go through each day, we get farther along in this process. Even if it doesn't look like a whole lot of progress, there is a lot of progress going on. A lot of parts on their way, a lot of things happening behind the scenes, but not really behind the scenes. You guys know, it's just, there's so many little things that go into putting together a car like this. So just been chipping away at it, one thing after another, and before you know it, you have a car. I also wanted to say these videos are really tough to title and thumbnail because there's so much going on that it's so hard to just like pick one thing out and be like, that's gonna be my title and thumbnail. There's just so much stuff going on that it's really tough. But that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it saucy. Don't forget there's merchandise on the website. I'll see you next time.